I mean, there's a lot of things. There's like Richard Nixon and Richard Nixon said, "Damn it! If I say it's true, then it's true." Richard Nixon was doing this thing where he's like, if he says it, if Richard Nixon says it's true, and I have credentials or something like that and can prove it. And Richard Nixon would come up with all this bullshit lie stuff and whatever, and then Richard Nixon tried the if it's true, then we should all say it's true, you know, and doing this thing where Richard Nixon was like saying, if 3,000 people think it's true, then it has to be true. And I was like, no, just because a whole planet could go insane and say that up is down, but that doesn't make it true. I mean, anyway, there was all this stuff where Richard Nixon was, because Richard Nixon was trying to get like mass approval or things to change, and he couldn't really get them to change because fact is fact and truth is truth and science is science, you know. And like Richard Nixon was saying, well, if it's in a 3,000-year-old book, then it's true. And it's like, just because some crackpot wrote it down 3,000 years ago does not mean it's absolutely fact. And they're trying to get the whole Bible. They're trying to get the Bible started off so they could be like, oh yeah, you know, our friend Bob right here is actually the creator. And it's like, okay, whatever. It's like, I don't think so. Let's ask the galaxy. It's gone. Like, anyway, though, Richard Nixon was doing all this stuff. I mean, they were fighting like hard to like get this war started and get this like you hear a lot of talk about getting the war started somewhere around 19 they were trying to kill people or scare people or get people away from Panama so they could take it over, so they can take up the mine. Like if someone and considered an abandoned mine, they were doing a lot of the Abandoned Mine Act says that we can take it over. And it's like, I didn't abandon that mine. I'm pretty sure they're still working it. And they were even trying to say a mine was abandoned before it was abandoned. And then they would go down there and they would actually tell my miners that the mine had been turned over to them. It's like Richard Nixon and the Republicans were doing all this stuff where they would write down things and say, like, if it's written down, then it's a factual document and we have a signature. It's like, that's not my signature. I don't know where he got that signature from, but it wasn't mine because I didn't sign that. Anyway, the Republicans, Rodney, Rick Bush, a lot of other people were trying so desperately to get me well, his word of approval, his word of consent means, and they were even drugging me with GHB to try and get my consent and all kinds of other stuff. And they were just like trying to do this thing where like you would be surprised. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of evidence and a lot of video of everything that they were trying to do to me and then cover it up. And it's like, oh, wow. You know, I mean, Rodney Briley and Rick Bush and a lot of other people are just hosed. I mean, realistically, in the grand scheme of a trillion years, they're hosed. They're so just like in trouble because they tried to take over, trying to take over my Panama mine. I mean, that everything was always investigated. I was like, investigation, because I didn't know who was trying to attack. I didn't know it was Roosevelt. You know, the Irish actually told me, well, it's this man Roosevelt or whatever. He's a Republican or something like that. And they knew about it. And Germany found out about it. Like, Germany didn't really know exactly, like, they were trying to kill the messengers before they would get out to Germany because they knew Germany would send people there to protect the mine. And they were doing all this stuff. I mean, it was all Republicans, they were killing, it was all Republicans and the Democrats, basically. And they've been doing this for like a couple 100 years trying to get all this stuff done. And it's like, and realistically, it was just Nixon just trying to live a good life. And realistically, he did go out and he did shoot car dealership salesmen. He would just go up to car dealership salesmen and kill them. And like this guy from Africa who was crazier than you know what. Like Nixon and other people were like, well, we'll give you stuff over here if you go kill handle these other people over here in our country. And it's like, well, it doesn't really work like that. I mean, you're going into one of my countries, and that's called civil defense. Anyway, they're doing all this stuff. Like it might have been John McCain that was shot down spraying chemical weapons or stuff or pesticides to kill the farms or kill off the workers over in Panama. I mean in Korea. Anyway, there's all these attacks, and they trace back to people basically, and because there's always investigations. Even if Richard Nixon and JFK and some other people and Rodney and Rick Bush and some other people tried to like twist it, I was always a very rich person. So, I mean, I named America. It's my dollar bills that have been mass printed like crazy. So that money went to people for payment of services. I mean, there are receipts, there are log books, I have enough financial information going back thousands of years of things going from Germany to Russia. Like all my transactions were always tracked. Of course, I mean, I'm one person and own this giant empire. So like there was always records and logs and people writing logs, and there was always like stories about like how their adventures went, on my expeditions, because I paid for expeditions to Antarctica. I paid for expeditions to what's called, and you can't, in the old days, you didn't just pay for an expedition. It's like you own a ship, you build a ship, or you pay people to build a ship, and then you pay people to run that ship, and that ship makes money. And that's another thing is my financial ventures, all the way through time and space and stuff. Like my crew had to have food. My crews had to have, I was basically a businessman just like everyone else. Like I just was I was a very successful businessman. I had oil from whales, I had oil from the ground, I was a businessman just like everyone else, realistically. I had fish, I sold people. It's just that I was one of the bigger kind where I'm supporting whole countries and thousands of people. And they're reproducing like crazy, and I have to actually plan for that. It's another thing, if I didn't plan out right, then people starved. So, like existence for me and existence for everyone else is different. Like I used to tell people all the time, I used to say, you know what, you're lucky. I can fire you and you can walk away tomorrow and this isn't your problem anymore. For me as a creator of planets and an owner of nations, like I have to, if I don't plan out for the future, then those people at the Panama Mine, I used to say, those people at the Panama Mine, they are going to starve tomorrow or die tomorrow. I have to plan out for them. I have to keep them alive. I have to protect them. I used to say that, like, I have a huge, like, I can't walk away. I can't go home. I used to say all the time, I can't go home. I can't just walk away. It's my mine. They're my people. I've promised them that they are going to succeed at this. So I have to find a way for them to succeed, just like every other venture. When I was trying to build a ship, if I didn't get them to, if I couldn't be smart enough and think about things and have things ready, then and plan things out, then if I fail, they fail, and if they fail, I fail. So I was directly connected to my companies. And I couldn't just say, oh, let's go kill that other person in that mine and take it over. Or let's just, I didn't work on that. My existence doesn't work on that level. So my existence is more like, occasionally it's like, oh, there are people in that country that are starving or being put into slave labor. And then it's like, well, okay, let's roll tanks and go see what's going on over there, and maybe we can help them out. And generally helping out or changing a country is more like just sending people in there and they put up some posters and, get some things going. I work on the more psychological level than I do work on the war level, because just killing people doesn't do anything. It's better to like show them things, show them the better future, show them the brighter future. And that works a lot better. That's what I do, actually. That's what I always do with everything I would do. I would show them the way things could be, and that's how I worked all the way throughout the Panama and everything else. So my existence is different than everyone else's.